Katie Chats here at SMITHEE TV in downtown Toronto with Ralph BENMERGUI, broadcaster, journalist, political advisor, 5-time Gemini nominee, now blogger, producer. What inspired you to get into the business?
You know, I don't know if I was ever inspired. I think I just always grew up thinking I was going to be an actor. You know, and I used to, when I was walking home for lunch by myself, I'd be pushing the leaves ahead of me and I'd be thinking of my acceptance speech for the Academy Awards. You know, by the time I got to be in show business and acting, I realized, well, that's just not going to happen. And nor did I want it to happen. I acted and did stand-up and sang and things until about 24 or 5, and then thought, this is not a life for me. I don't need this so badly that I'm willing to get rejected this many times a week. It's a bit too much for my constitution. So, and I think there was something in me that just realized I was never going to be a great actor. I probably would have been a good actor, but I would never have been a great actor, I don't think. I think for anything, for you to get to a level that is really above, you have to be completely committed. It can't, you know, very few people get there accidentally. You really have to, you know, when they say about Sidney Crosby, his teammates say, I've never seen anyone practice like that in my life. And you'd think, why would he bother? He's the best hockey player in the world. But that's why he's the best hockey player in the world, because to him, that's the most fun he could possibly have. So I quit doing that at that point.
Okay. And when you went into being a host and a broadcaster, did you feel like you were fully committed and wanting to be the best that you could at that point?
Well, at that point, it wasn't any more about what I wanted to be. It was about the work, because it was really about being a journalist. I'd gone to journalism school and realized that this was actually where my passion was, in curiosity and in critical thinking. You know, and journalism at its best is a critical thinking mode, and at its worst, the way it's often practiced, is highly unimaginative and very much a sort of a pack pursuit. You know, I've been in politics on the communications side from the government's point of view for a few years, and it was really disillusioning to see that really what it devolves to in that sphere often is just, you know, that circle at school that would form, and the kids would go, fight, 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 fight. And that's pretty well what you got. You didn't really get a critical analysis of things. And I mean, they did a streeter on Attawapiskat last week on Chief Spence's hunger strike. And they went out in the street and asked people, and the only two people who knew anything about what they were talking about, even the gender of Chief Spence, were two lawyers, two law students. Everyone else had no clue what was going on. So, you know, journalism is a very interesting place to be, but like many pursuits, it's not well realized. But I didn't care about being great at that anymore. I just really love the work. I love curiosity-driven things.
Okay. You've gone through a few different paths as a political advisor, a host, journalist, producer. What has it been like transitioning throughout all these different things? And is it something you plan, or do you just kind of follow your interest at the time?
Well, you know, I think there's a part of me, you know, I come from I'm an immigrant, wasn't born here, and, you know, we didn't have a lot. So I think I've always sort of viewed, my worldview has always been tempered by that experience, and that I just, being able to be agile and figure out what's going on around you and figure out what's next. I'm also a minority person in my religious beliefs, and that I'm Jewish, and there's only like, what, 3% of North Americans are Jews, and of them, 3% are what I am, which is Spanish or Moroccan. So, I mean, you're in this little group. So you learn to figure out what's going on and how do you adapt. And I think that just becomes part of your DNA. And I've always had an attitude that you shouldn't, you know, if, it's like when I quit acting, my friends were like, "What? You're an actor." And they were not supportive. They were just like, "But this is what you told everyone you'd be." And you realize you have to ignore that and just say, but I'm interested in this now. And getting out of broadcasting and going into political communications, and now I'm the executive advisor to the president of Sheridan College. You know, people think, well, what are you doing there? Like, how on earth did you get there? And I haven't a clue. I really do. Like, you can't plan that. You just follow your passions and your interests and the kinds of people you want to work with, and educate yourself constantly. Don't wait for permission from people that you're allowed to be this now or you're allowed to be that. Just, you know, working with students now and an organization and our major thrust is creativity. You realize that you really want to give students the best possible opportunity to be not just good at hard skills, but soft skills, how to be creative, how to solve, and being creative in solving problems. You know, I've spoken to people, so I don't have a creative bone in my body. And I had somebody I work with right now who just said that. And I said, but all day long you solve problems. That's creative. Like, I make problems for you, and you solve them. And, you know, how are you going to get me to this city? How are you going to get me to that meeting? What am I supposed to do with this person? How do you handle that person? So creativity is a problem-solving mechanism. And at Sheridan, we're implementing it through the whole institution, because the students, like me, are going to have 5 or 6 careers. You'll have 5 or 6 careers. It's what life is now. I mean, if an old guy like me can have that many, then imagine how many careers you'll have, and people even younger than you.
Okay. You've also created a blog, the new Sabbath project, with your wife. Tell me a little bit about that.
That came about, I did a documentary for Vision TV with my producing partner Alan Novak, called 5 Seekers, and we took 5 people who were spiritually seeking. As an aside, when we were recruiting people for this, you do it in certain ways, and you get hundreds of submissions, and they had to do detailed reasoning as to why they wanted to be on the show and why they were seeking. I do have to say to my Catholic friends that they were very well represented in this group of people who were seeking. I read a lot of lapsed Catholic documents, I have to say. But anyway, we had to choose these people, and we took them on these spiritual journeys to see if anything connected with them, because they had a kind of a hole in their lives, a spiritual hole. And I think a lot of people actually have the spiritual hole in their life, and they're not quite sure what to do about it, because many of them, we live in a highly individualized age, and people don't like obligation and responsibility, which are the main tenets of any spiritual practice, that you are obligated to do certain things, and you're responsible to the collective and how you behave and what you do with your life. And most of us, kind of in adolescence, leave that behind and say, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to do whatever I want, any way I want. But that leaves us often with a kind of a God hole, as it were, where we're not really connecting and feel kind of lonely in the world, you know? And so these people really represented that kind of search. So one of the places we went was Cortes Island, British Columbia, and if people have ever been out there, it's a beautiful island, and they have a place there called Hollyhock, and it's a very interesting center. It's kind of like Findhorn, for anybody who would know Findhorn, which was in the 70s in England. Intentional community of people who were looking for alternative paths, and very interesting. So we took them there, and while we were there was a flyer, come to my Shabbat dinner. Shabbat is Sabbath in Hebrew. He said, come to my Shabbat dinner, everyone welcome. And I said, what's the deal? And our producer said, you know what, you're going there. We've actually booked you to go there. So we all went there, me and the seekers, and this woman who wasn't Jewish, every Friday night would have this Sabbath dinner. And all around her house she had all the different iconographies of religions. But we all did blessings around the table. And I went back home and I said to my wife, I said, you know, I have to say, I grew up with Sabbath every Friday night. We had dinner, and, you know, you have blessings at the beginning, and then Saturday lunch after synagogue and all that. My wife had not grown up with that. She grew up with a sort of a cultural, secular Jewish upbringing. And I said, you know, I wouldn't mind doing that again. And we started inviting our friends and our family, and then people we meet and say, you know what, would you like to come over? And other people we've never even met come to our house because they know somebody who's coming. And it's turned into this fabulous event because we do something different. We hang out together, of course, and have some wine, and then we go to sit down at the table, and then we do the first prayer, which is when you light the candles. And the candles are to demarcate the difference between the 6 days where you do things and the one day where you should just be. And that's what a Sabbath is. It is an architecture of time. An ability to say every week there is a stop. And we think that it's a revolutionary idea for today, in that imagine if we all just stopped on a Friday for 25 hours on a Friday night to a Saturday night. Didn't work, didn't do errands. Look at try driving around Toronto on a Saturday. Holy moly! It might as well be rush hour all day long. I mean, you got about an hour and a half in the morning, and then forget it. The place is just nuts. Everyone's running around as if their life depended on it. Everyone's doing chores. No one's with family enough, and if they are, their family's stuffed in a car while they drive around to, to big box stores. It's nuts, right? So imagine if you didn't do any of that. Imagine if you just took time to be with people and you didn't bother with all this. Imagine even if you didn't use much power, you didn't have every light on, you didn't drive everywhere, you just sort of stayed local. If we did that, imagine that all over North America. Imagine how much we could save in power and how much we could regenerate our lives by just resting. Like, when do we stop, right? So for us, the new Sabbath project grew out of that. And just now on the way here, we have a connection with somebody who reached out to us through our blog in Kenya. And he's he has a missionary going in Kenya. He's a Maasai tribesman from the Rift Valley. But he has now started to do Sabbaths. And he has people coming from all over, and he takes pictures of these people, and they're all coming from different communities. And so what's happening is that the girls are, he has a family, and there's a lot of girls in the community that aren't getting the education they need, and so he's made that a point, which is interesting because for instance, in the Baha'i faith, one of the tenets of Baha'i is if you have a boy or a girl, a boy and a girl in your family, you're obligated to educate the girl first, because the girl will become a woman, become a mother, and so if they're educated, then they can pass on education to their children. So it's very interesting to try to connect different people together, and we have lots of people who come over, but we're trying to figure out how to make it more sustainable for others, because people love coming, but then they don't do it themselves. They just wait for us to invite them again. And we love inviting them, but I went and spoke to a rabbi friend of mine. I said, we're trying to get this thing to become bigger, more sustainable, have more people engage it, because it's building community one meal at a time, right? And he said, the reason you can't right now is because the people who come are not obligated to do this. He said, I'm a rabbi. It doesn't matter how tired I am on Friday. I have to do my Friday night dinner and Sabbath and go to synagogue on Saturday and go on Friday night. I have to. I'm obligated. And that's what sustains cultures. That's why religions tend to sustain themselves and trends tend to die. Because you're not obligated to repeat the process. You just get excited by something. It goes up in social media. You're thinking, wow, yeah, they prorogued Parliament, man. And a month later, you're back to whatever else you were doing because you're not obligated to civic action. Right?
Do you think that technology is reducing the sense of community?
No, in some ways it's creating it. I never would have met Julius in Kenya if there wasn't social media. It's not the mechanisms that are the issue. The issues are to live in a hyper-material world, in a capitalist hyper-material world that we live in, is to become isolated in many ways through the fact that you are collecting stuff. We spend more on storage than on the entertainment business in North America. We spend more than, I think it's 190 countries' gross domestic product on waste disposal, on like plastic bags to throw out garbage than they have. I mean, it's crazy. And we were told if we just got enough stuff, we'd be happy. And it's not true at all. I mean, the blessing I had as a kid was I was a working class kid in a well-off neighborhood. And my friends, who were very kind to me, it didn't matter I wasn't, well off, they were just as unhappy or happy as I was. They were just as screwed up as I was. It didn't matter that their parents, that their dad owned this company and they had lots of money. They were really going through every emotional thing that I went through. So it taught me that money had nothing to do with it. After a certain point, after you've hit subsistence and you're okay, you can feed yourself and you have some sense of security, it's not going to make you any happier. As a matter of fact, the people who really love money are never happy, because the minute they get it, they want more. And the minute you get that, you get a Lexus, and somebody drives by you with a brand new Mercedes Coupe 550, and you're thinking, that doesn't look bad. I should have gotten a Mercedes 550. So that never ends, right? So that's what isolates us, is that we have misidentified prosperity. We thought it was about stuff. There's some really good books on this stuff. Prosperity Without Growth is an excellent book. And Crash Course is an excellent book on those kinds of things. And a lot of my political work is about the Green Party. I worked in the Liberal government because Glenn Murray was a friend of mine, and I believed in a lot of the ideas that he had. Before that, I worked for the Green Party of Canada for 2 years. And I think that until we deal with the environmental issue on every level, I mean, there's no economy without an environment. If you think we're paying a lot now, wait until extreme weather makes us pay so much, it's almost unimaginable. But invest now, not later. So I love ideas, obviously, and I love engaging. The New Sabbath project, to me, is a green idea. It's a spiritual idea. Spirituality is not a dirty word. It's a good thing. How you manifest it, obviously, in an individual age is your business, but I still think that there's a lot that we could do to make community by just simply having a meal with friends and family once a week and stopping. And what we do is we have people give a blessing around the table after we've lit the candles. And that changes everything, because you find out that someone's blessing their mother who's not doing very well right now. And you've been to like birthday parties and dinner parties where people just small talk until the end of the night and go home. I'm always amazed at someone's 30th or 40th or 50th or 60th birthday party, that we don't all stop for a minute and everybody tell a little story about the birthday person, not to embarrass them, to honor them, and to say we're all here together. Let's do something to make this not just profane but sacred. Right? I interviewed Leonard Cohen once, and he said you have to build a fence around the sacred. If you don't, there is no sacred. People just walk through the yard all day long until it's all gone, right? But if you create something where you can say, okay, this is the time that's special, then life gets better for you, because as you get older, you realize, what you're really looking for is, if you're lucky enough to have the last few moments in a room, who's going to be in the room, and how much do they actually want to be there? If you're going to love people, give them a chance to love you back, and try to make something of that. Right?
And where is the best place to find out more information on the New Sabbath project and all the things that you're doing online? www.newsabbathproject.com. We love people to add to the blog, and I'm going to be doing a radio show at U of T, because a friend of mine asked me to, and my boss at Sheridan said, go ahead. But part of it's going to be New Sabbath project stuff, and part of it's going to be about the creativity that we're doing at Sheridan, and that we think that people really have to start moving into their lives. And we're not going to be competing with people in the world anymore to be just manufacturers of things. We're going to have the creative idea that makes something better. So that's what we're doing with it. Great. Thank you so much, Ralph. Congratulations on all of your success, and best of luck with the project and all of your upcoming projects.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you. I'm Katie Uhlmann, reporting for Katie Chats here at SMITHEE TV in downtown Toronto.